All right, next we'll go to the general consent calendar. Hold it, nope, superintendent's report. I'm hurrying us. I don't know why. Superintendent, you ready? Icon.
Okay, all right. Board members, I hope that you have been hearing, seeing our Portrait of a Graduate as a more visible document that makes the Board of Education's vision living and breathing in our schools. The Portrait of a Graduate is really catching fire not only in our state, but really getting some national, international attention. I'll talk about that in a minute. Really, when we think about the board's vision, the Portrait of a Graduate is our vision defined. And I'm so proud that we've thought about it in this way and played it out and really engaged stakeholders in the process of thinking about when students leave our system, what do we hope that they will know and be able to do? And not just a set of words, but make it very tangible. I love talking to young people about the Portrait of a Graduate, our teachers. As I've been out visiting schools this year, I bring it up in every setting, and without fail, in every single district, our educators are aware of this. And in some cases, they have gotten together as teams of teachers and administrators in their district and played it out in their schools, thinking about at grade level. What does it mean for a kindergarten student? What does mastery look like in second grade? What does autonomy look like in fourth grade? So they're really thinking about this at every level. And I'm just so excited about not only the document, but the outcomes from the document. So you might refer to it as the Utah Talent Map, or the Portrait of a Graduate. It means the same thing, but I want to just walk through this a little bit, and then I'm going to end with Dr. Norman talking about her experience with this on an international level. So when we think about the Portrait of a Graduate, and thinking about it as a map or a roadmap, because we are on the road to awesome, right? So we need a map to get there. And thinking about mastery, autonomy, and purpose. So when we think about mastery, most people really get the concept of mastery, but we often stop at a very baseline level and don't think about the demonstration of mastery. And that's where we thread that needle of personalized learning and competency learning, and thinking about how do students show mastery. And there are multiple ways to do that. And to show, when we talk about depth of knowledge, that's been in our standards and something we've promoted for the last, since like 2012, we've been talking about depth of knowledge. But to really see that play out in our Portrait of a Graduate is, I think, very powerful and tangible now for our teachers. When we talk about autonomy, it's really helping students have self-confidence. We saw evidence of that today. Wasn't that amazing to hear in the students' own words how they've gained confidence through working on their history project and being able to give oral presentations and to research and be confident about what they're learning. So it's not just about thinking independently, but acting independently. And I would even add interdependently, as we think about teamwork as an important skill. And then we want our students to think about their purpose in life, to have a broader vision of themselves than in the moment. And I love how the Portrait for a Graduate really can help students learn to think about how their decisions are made and how to shape their goals. And it really does offer a sense of direction for our students. I hope that you'll also see that the initiatives as a board that you've taken on and how they're woven into this map. So when we think about mastery, it's not just the core academics, but it's really our digital footprint and being mindful of that footprint and being able to function in today's world. It's about wellness, mental wellness and physical wellness, and thinking about our civic and character education, financial and economic literacy. So it goes beyond just our core standards. And then as we talk about autonomy, I often get in a debate with people about what to call these skills. When I hear people label them as soft skills, I have this visceral reaction because they're anything but soft. These are really hard and they're integral, but they are so essential in today's world. And we hear this all the time from employers when they provide input on our standards, specifically our CTE standards. They talk about all of these things that when they see students, whether it's in college or in the workplace, are they communicating? Can they solve problems and think critically and creatively, and are they working together in productive ways. And then I think the purpose part of this Portrait of a Graduate is something that's really resonating with people out in the field. And you just heard presentation about educating the whole child, which so appreciated your comments. And thinking about how all of these things can be taught through a variety of curriculum. I was speaking about our Beverly Taylor Sorensen Arts Project yesterday, and thinking about how the arts and humanity can teach so many things, not only in content, but just some life skills. So having purpose can be taught in our homes and supported in our schools as well. So Dr. Norman had the opportunity to represent not just Utah, but the United States at a recent international convening in China. And there are pictures out there somewhere, Patty, I didn't have them, but you can see our Portrait of a Graduate documents translated in Mandarin. That was super impressive to me to see these large posters, just like the ones you see out in the hall in Mandarin, and I'm sure they'll be translated in other languages. But Patty had the opportunity to not only speak about this, but also serve on a panel and interact with international leaders. So I'd like her to come and talk about the international reaction to Portrait of a Graduate.
Ready? We're ready? Okay. I was waiting for it to go green for some reason. Thanks for giving me this opportunity, and Superintendent Dixon, thanks for giving me the opportunity to go and share and be a part of this. I think the number one thing that I took away from the experience of going to China and representing Utah and the United States in educational innovation is that technology, so it was an educational innovations conference, and the number one thing that we left with is that technology is now the white noise in the background. It is such an integral and integrated part of what we're doing in education, especially in the state of Utah, that our students expect it. If you put a computer in front of them, it's no longer this object where they go, oh my goodness, I have a computer. They're like, and the next step. It's a tool in their tool belt, and the appropriate use of it is where we're going. And it's really moving towards the human-centric component of it, which is why when we talked about the Portrait of a Graduate on an international level, it's what took the world community that was there by storm. And we had the most questions that were being asked. So let me kind of give a little bit of background about the conference and what we were doing. So BYU submitted a proposal to, with different states within the nation to be selected to represent the United States, and the Utah proposal was chosen. So I went over there with BYU and was able to participate by doing a keynote speech. It was amazing because when I walked in, it's like the United Nations where you go in and you put a thing in your ear, a translator in your ear, and you tell them what language you're participating in. And so I was participating in English. And then I had a translator that was there with me to be able to walk me to the different places where I needed to go. When the main speakers were speaking, they would speak in a language, and it was being then translated into all of the world languages of everyone in the audience. In the audience, there were about 22,000 people, and then there was over 2 million people that participated online throughout Beijing and the other universities that were participating as well. And when questions were asked in giving this presentation, you can kind of see the black translator in my ear. I would speak, and then it would be translated. So there was always this delayed reaction that would happen that was kind of reminded me of when you're on and you see someone on the news, and they ask them a question, and then they wait, and there's a response that occurs. But I wanted to talk specifically about what that means to the Portrait of a Graduate. So I'm going to just give you something that we don't often do in education, which is to take the time to celebrate and to look at the outcomes, not just for what they are for education right now, but the greater outcomes of what that means to the state of Utah as a whole. So some of the contributing stats that go along with it is in Utah, we have about 92% of people over age 25 have a high school diploma, about 92%. About 32.5% of Utahns over the age of 25 have a bachelor's degree. About 1/3 of our population. We have 93.5% who have a computer at home, and 83.7% that have broadband internet. So because of these things, and then the educational opportunities that we have that are because of that computer-based, the internet, and those things that are happening for innovation, here are some of the things that are happening. Here's some of our outcomes that we don't usually see in one lump. And here's the lump that brings it all together that's a positive. Although we may be last in funding, we are number one in best state stability. We have the highest achievement in 8th grade NAEP and above average on all other NAEP measures. We are higher than the rest of the nation on AP exam pass rates. We are the #1 state for entrepreneurs, the #1 with the narrowest wealth gap between our highest and poorest in population. We are the #1 in the nation for broadband speeds. We are the #1 state for upward mobility. You can come to the state of Utah with little or nothing, and because of the educational opportunities, you can make it what it is of yourself that you'd like to and have those opportunities. We are #1 in economic outlook since 2008. We are the #1 most diverse state economy. We're #1 in population growth for the nation, #2 best state for business by Forbes, and #3 highest in state education rankings, only behind Massachusetts and New Jersey. What makes this possible? So those are the greater educational outcomes and what we sometimes measure here at the State Board of Education. Well, one of the things is the availability of capable employees. And of that, that's where education plays the biggest role. We have Utah's top-tiered education system. It exposes all of our students to academics, technology, all of the fields that you've seen in content, all of the standards that you as a board have set, passed, and agreed upon. Then we have an educated workforce. And an educated workforce is a vital part of anyone's economy. And that is why our businesses are coming here. And when we talk about Silicon Slopes, that is why they're resting here and everyone else is trying to come as quickly as possible. Then we look at what makes that up. So when we went out and started talking about the portrait of a graduate, we said what it really matters to have a high school diploma. And that was, some of that work was led by, Board Member Belknap, of what is it really going to take? And our original discussion about high school graduation requirements started with us saying, how many credits? Should we have 3 credits in this and 2 credits in this? Is that what it takes? Do we have 1 credit, or is that, how many hours is that? And then we knew that the conversation was much more broad than that. It was about those skills and attributes that make someone a capable employee, a citizen of Utah, a good contributing citizen to the world, to family, to community. All of those things matter. And in going through those stakeholder groups, it was really about saying to freshmen at the university, what did you wish that you would have taken? Financial literacy, more things because now you have debt. It was talking to the youth in custody saying, what could we do better as an educational community? And they said, it's not about you, it was about us. We weren't engaged. But isn't that really about us? It really is about us. How do we engage them so that they become someone who helps Utah's economy instead of takes from Utah's economy? And if we can help them through this process and start saying what matters, which is what our Portrait of a Graduate does, with those 13 elements, that is groundbreaking. That is groundbreaking to look back at what Superintendent Dixon just put up there to say, this is what matters to Utah. It's not those soft skills, it's those important skills to not only make me employable, but to make me a productive citizen, and to value the things that are worth valuing. And when we started to talk about that, that's when the second part of the presentation, where we were put on a panel, and on that panel were 7 other countries that were selected because of what was submitted. The first was the keynote that was submitted with BYU. The second was selected because of the presentation material. So that was selected after everything was entered to say, we would like for you to represent one of the 7 countries in the nation for educational innovation. So if you look at the skill set of those 13 competencies, that's what innovation is now. Innovation is human-centric. It's about those skills and attributes that students for mastery, autonomy, and purpose are able to do with technology as an aid, as an instrument. But it takes that human-centric component. It takes the human to be able to say what we're doing is honest and has integrity and responsibility. I just heard a stat this morning, only 14% of our students, through various testing measures, and I can't remember which one it was, only 14% of our students are able to distinguish between opinion and fact. So when we're looking at these things that need to happen, the Utah State Board of Education has led out, and the world is looking.
Thank you for your superintendent's report, and it sounds like you had an awesome trip. I'm sure your travels were as awesome. Heard you had a couple snags, or one, but we're glad that you're here safe, so thank you for this report. If I could, and I think it would be those lists of first, Superintendent, if you could shoot those out, just, and some communication that we can kind of keep track of those. I appreciate you reading them really, really fast for the interest of time, but I didn't write them down, but I think the board members would benefit from having those, so thank you. Okay.